Channel 5, KSDK, St. Louis. And now, Channel 5 Eyewitness News Update.
On one of the most miserable nights of the year, firemen find themselves battling a 5-alarm fire at a church in North St. Louis. Good evening, I'm Dick Ford.
And I'm Deanne Lane, sitting in for Karen Foss. There's already talk of bringing back the Catholic Church stronger than ever. That after Our Lady of Perpetual Help went up in flames tonight. Channel 5's Rich Isom reports a lightning strike caused the blaze.
But the Lord has plans, and we can't determine them for ourselves.
That's the word the parish priest will deliver to his congregation after their church went up in flames tonight. That church is Our Lady of Perpetual Help, located at 20th and Linton in North St. Louis. The fire began after the church was struck by lightning.
It was like a thunder, a big old noise, like boom, you know, and then a vibration, like, you know, everything shook, and you can hear, like, it was a big old noise.
Our Lady of Perpetual Help has been a neighborhood fixture for around half a century, but tonight it lays in ruins. Firemen battled the 5-alarm blaze more than an hour before bringing it under control. There was fear the falling steeple could damage other houses in the neighborhood.
Well, the firemen come up and knocked on all the doors and told us to get out of the house as soon as possible. They were afraid that the steeple was going to fall on our house, a 4-family flat.
Police say there was no one inside the church at the time of the blaze, and apparently no one was injured battling the fire on a cold, rainy night. Already, the parish priest is looking ahead.
It's very strong. I've been here 5 years, and we've grown from like 100 families to 200 families within those 5 years, which is a very good growth rate in the Archdiocese.
Father Cecil believes tonight's blaze can make his group even stronger. Rich Isom, Channel 5 Eyewitness News.
Church leaders will seek help from the Archdiocese to rebuild Our Lady of Perpetual Help.
Well, the first major snowstorm of the season that we've all suffered with all day forced a slow going in tonight's rush hour traffic. The first step in the journey home, of course, was clearing the accumulated snow off the car. Then it was a cautious driver creeping along the highways and city streets, attempting to avoid the slick spots. Today's snow and tonight's rain put a damper on this first day of the work week. It also frayed some tempers as many parents were forced to wait more than 6 hours as their children returned home from school on late-running Harmon school buses. And hundreds of airplane passengers are stranded, too, in St. Louis tonight because very few commercial flights are operating out of Lambert Airport.
The airport is deserted, but nearby hotels are packed. And that's where Alex Sirkin is standing by with this live Night Beat report. Alec?
Well, Deanne, I'm out here at the airport Marriott, which is filled to capacity tonight, mostly with people who would rather not be here. But their planes were not getting off the ground, so they're stranded. And many of them are making the best of it, spending the evening in the bar back here.
Well, we came to St. Louis today to do a little business, and we're trying to get back to Nashville and ended up stranded here. So we're watching the game and going to eat some pizza and have a good time.
Well, I started out in Denver snow skiing, and then we got stuck in Denver for 3 hours, flew into St. Louis Sunday night, missed a connection, so then we're going to fly to Atlanta this morning, but got snowed in St. Louis. The weather's worse here than it is in Denver.
Lambert Airport was a morgue tonight. It's been virtually shut down since the early afternoon. The weather made for a frustrating day for many passengers. If you think you had a rough day, listen to Mary Giesler's story. She started this morning in Detroit, circled over St. Louis when the plane couldn't land, then on to Peoria, then back over St. Louis for some more circling, then back to Peoria. There she had a choice of flying back to Detroit or taking a bus to St. Louis. Rough day. She did end up taking that bus back here to St. Louis. Tomorrow, it looks like the airport officials say that it looks like they will open and resume flights at 6:30 in the morning, but if more snow falls overnight, that could change. In any case, you can get the latest information tomorrow morning on Today in St. Louis, which is at 6:30 in the morning, and Jennifer Blum and Tom O'Neill will be able to tell you what the airport situation looks like at that time. For now, reporting live from the airport Marriott, Alex Sirkin, Channel 5 Eyewitness News.
Alex, remember, you're not stranded.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, today's storm is being blamed for a commuter plane crash at Joplin Regional Airport. 4 people were injured in the crash. 3 of them have been released from the hospital. Northwest Airlines Flight 2525 originated in Memphis. It apparently crashed while trying to land during the snowstorm. Investigators believe turbulence or wind shear pushed the plane to the ground. It took a nosedive, struck the ground, and then slid off the runway. The pilot is reportedly convinced the crash was weather-related. A veteran St. Louis police officer is in critical but stable condition tonight following a snow-related accident accident this morning. 64-year-old Lieutenant James McDonough lost control of his skidding car and collided with a tractor-trailer truck in the 7000 block of Hall Street. McDonough has 2 sons who are also police officers. He is scheduled to retire from the force next month.
Well, I think we've documented today and tonight were pretty miserable times. What about the rest of tonight, and what about that rush hour traffic tomorrow?
You got it. Let's check in with Bob Richards in the Weather Center for the latest. Bob?
Well, it looks like at this point things are really not in that bad shape right now. We did have a lot of snow, of course, today, officially 6 inches on the ground. Before the rains came, all the snow turned over to rain during the mid to late afternoon hours today, and it is still falling down in the form of rain over the St. Louis metro area. Later on tonight, though, as cold air starts to wrap around this very vigorous, intense storm system, we do expect the rain to gradually turn over to snow during the wee hours of the morning and then end to snow flurries during the morning hours tomorrow. Could be a rough go during rush hour tomorrow because some of that snow may start to fall just before the rush hour begins. Accordingly, National Weather Service offices are very busy at work. There is a winter storm warning in effect for most of the western sections of the two-state area. Here in St. Louis, we did have a warning in effect. It has now been dropped to a snow advisory. Again, no snow right now. It is all in the form of rain. Southeastern sections of Missouri and Illinois are not covered by winter storm watches, but there is severe weather. A tornado reported just outside of Cape Girardeau about a half an hour ago down in extreme southeast Missouri. None of that activity over our viewing area, but it again remains well to the south. Radar live for the National Weather Service will show you what's happening at the moment. We're looking at mostly rainfall right now. It is just about all rain that you see on radar, but further to the west back in Columbia starts to change back over to sleet and then back into snow over western portions of Missouri. And again, as we mentioned earlier, as this cold air wraps around this developing storm, some of the rain is going to turn over to snow before it all comes to an end as flurries tomorrow morning. Again, we don't expect any major accumulations overnight, but again, some snow is possible. Could be a rough go during rush hour. More on that and the rest of the forecast coming up in just a few moments.
All right, thank you, Bob. As you well know, St. Louis wasn't the only city hit by today's storm. In New Mexico and Texas, 500 miles of Interstate 40 were closed down most of the day in the biggest blizzard of the season. National Guard units were activated in New Mexico as police rescued more than 150 motorists.
And in the southern Rockies near Rye, Colorado, the storm dumped 28 inches of snow, making it tough even for the snowblowers there. The homeless in Denver scurried for shelter when temperatures fell below 10 degrees. That's the coldest in the Rockies this season.
Ahead, details on what some may consider an alarming find.
Yes, some alcoholic beverages may be contaminated with a cancer-causing agent. Details in cover story. Plus,
I'm John Pertzborn, and coming up on Pertzborn's People, we'll tell you why Santa Claus is trying to change his reputation. That story's coming up after sports. Stay with us.
The Chrysler Corporation agrees to pay more than $16 million to consumers as settlement in a federal case of odometer tampering. 32,000 people bought cars that were sold as new but had been test-driven with their odometers disconnected. Well, today, Chrysler pleaded no contest to the federal charges in St. Louis but agreed to pay a settlement of $16 million. Well, the U.S. Supreme Court is short one justice, but today President Reagan's third choice to fill that void began his Senate confirmation hearings. Federal Judge Anthony Kennedy of California denied he had any fixed view on the abortion issue. Kennedy told lawmakers some activities are protected by a right to privacy, even though it is not spelled out in the Constitution. Kennedy also assured committee members he would not let his own Catholic faith affect his judgments.
well, if you drink alcoholic beverages, there's a chance that the beverage might be contaminated with a cancer-causing chemical. Tonight in Cover Story, we find out what a consumer group is crying for: action on the potentially hazardous levels of urethane in alcoholic beverages. Millions of Americans drink alcoholic beverages, and most are unaware that some of it contains a cancer-causing chemical, urethane. It's created accidentally in the manufacturing process.
There's no disputing the fact that urethane is a carcinogen. Secondly, FDA has failed to protect consumers from this chemical. And third, drinkers can take practical steps to reduce their exposure to urethane.
In a report released today in Washington, the Center of Science in the Public Interest says more than 100 beverages sold in the United States would have been banned in Canada, which set limits 2 years ago. Urethane levels vary from brand to brand and in the different types of alcohol. And your risk varies on how often you drink.
2 drinks a day would lead to a risk anywhere from 10 to 4,700 times greater than FDA's 1 in a million guideline.
The most heavily and frequently contaminated products are bourbons, sherries, and fruit brandies. Some wines and a few beers are also contaminated. Making the urethane contamination list are certain Gallo and Christian Brothers sherries Almaden and Paul Masson table wines, Jim Beam and Early Times bourbons, and Foster beer. The president of the Wine Institute says the consumer group is playing a numbers game at the expense of the industry, and that scientists are trying to find out how the urethane is formed so it can be avoided. The Food and Drug Administration is working on establishing acceptable levels of urethane. The St. Louis Office of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms Department will be enforcing them.
The timetable is that we're moving as rapidly as humanly possible. We're working right now with FDA to determine what level of urethane is acceptable, so to speak, in alcoholic beverages. Those tests are now continuing, and I can assure you that we're working very hard to determine what levels of urethane are acceptable.
Well, if you'd like to check the level of urethane in the alcoholic beverage of your choice, you can get a copy of the urethane report from the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. That address is 1200 Pennsylvania Avenue Northwest, Washington, D.C., 20226. Attention, Jim Pasco.
Are you already worried about heading to work tomorrow?
Well, Bob's next. He'll tell us what we can expect in the morning. Well, if you ever wonder about the impact of weather on business, it might only be 10 more shopping days before Christmas right now, but you wouldn't know it tonight. If you visited some of the malls in the St. Louis area, the Galleria is just one center where shoppers were scarce, almost non-existent. At Plaza Frontenac's exclusive stores, the few buyers who showed up seemed to enjoy the baubles and bangles to themselves. Some major shopping malls like St. Louis Center and Union Station actually closed early today because of the weather, and with the number of shoppers out there, I guess that was the wise
We've been
thing to
talking
do.
about it all day. Strange weather. You had that snow coming down and the lightning, thunder. I'd never heard or seen anything like it.
It is very rare, but it does happen occasionally. It's a very vigorous storm.